Welcome to EKG Security Incorporated. I'm Ken Grogan, Vice President and General Manager. Let me be the first to welcome you to our company. EKG Security was formed in 1987 by myself, Ken Grogan, and my wife, Edie Grogan. We come from a law enforcement background. I'm retired from the Hall County Sheriff's Office in Gainesville, Georgia. The officers of EKG Security are pretty simple. Edie is the President and CEO, and I'm Vice President and General Manager. We also have an area manager and several site supervisors. When you came to work with EKG, you were given a new hire packet. And in that new hire packet is a list of our emergency telephone numbers. This is that list. This is important right off the bat that you know how to contact us in case there's an emergency. In that there's home phone numbers, office numbers, emails, fax machines, cell phone. We're always able to be reached. And also, while we're talking about emergency contacts, we also need to talk about the chain of command. You'll be assigned to a job site. Most job sites have site supervisors. That would be your first emergency contact is your site supervisor. If for some reason you can't reach your site supervisor or your site doesn't have a supervisor, you would contact the area manager. The area manager is listed on that emergency contact sheet. If for some reason you can't contact the area manager, then of course you can reach myself or Edie Grogan. Also, when you came to work with us, you signed for our policy manual. So the EKG policy manual is updated as need be, sometimes every year, every 2 years. You sign for this manual, and if you lose the manual, it costs $25 to replace. So please don't lose the manual. In the new hire paperwork, you signed that you would follow our procedures and you would understand the procedures. So please make sure that you follow our procedures. It's very important because if you don't, it could lead to disciplinary action all the way up to termination. Now let's talk about uniforms. We issue all uniforms at no cost to you. Some job sites require white shirts with our EKG patches and badges. Some sites require navy blue shirts with our patches and badges. And other sites require a polo style security shirt. Either way, we will issue those shirts to you depending on the job site that you're working. Also, the pants will be issued to you. And the pants are a navy blue dress pants. We require that you wear those pants that we issue or you buy some pants that you're more comfortable in. However, they cannot be cotton pants that will fade. BDU pants, battle dress uniform pants will fade. We also don't want jeans to be worn. Jeans also fade. And if you're wearing the navy shirt, and you will need to wear our navy pants so they match. It's very important that the uniform colors match. We also issue coats. We issue a lightweight coat that says security on it and a heavyweight bomber style coat. We also issue a hat. It's an EKG ball cap with a patch on the front of it. And in some of the colder weather sites where you'll be outside, we'll also issue a sock cap that says security on it. When it comes to these uniforms, it's important that the uniforms be clean, neat, and pressed. We don't want you to look like a slob on the job site. We want you to look professional. We want the uniforms to look good and you look good in the uniforms. The uniforms need to be, like I said, clean, pressed, and also the shirts need to be tucked in. That's very important. In some of the colder weather sites, you may want to wear some undergarments. If you're wearing a white security shirt, we don't mind if you wear white undergarments or a long sleeve white shirt. If you're working at a site that the navy shirt is required, it's okay if you wear a long sleeve shirt underneath your uniform shirt as long as it's navy blue to help keep you warm. We want you to be comfortable but yet look good in uniform. Now, your duties as a security officer. It's very important that you realize you are not a police officer. You are a security officer. We do not make arrests. We have no arrest powers. We have the same powers as a private citizen. We're considered to be the eyes and ears for the client when the client is not on site. A good example of this would be when we come to a job site, the client office is closed and we're on site watching their facility, making sure there's no burglaries, people breaking in, checking for fires and that kind of thing. So it's important to realize also, since we're not police, we're totally unarmed. We carry no firearms, no shotguns, nightsticks, billy clubs, slapjacks, or even any chemical sprays. We don't want any weapons on the job site. We're not insured for weapons, nor are we licensed for weapons. It's very important that you realize you are eyes and ears only. If a crime occurs in your presence, you're to, first of all, observe as many details as possible, contact emergency services such as 911, Sheriff's Office, Police Department, depending on where you're working. If there's a fire or an emergency, of course you will need to contact 911 for emergency services. After you have notified emergency services, it's important to observe details and maintain your position. For example, if you're working at a manufacturing facility where there's a fire, we don't need you leaving the gate and go into the fire. You will need to maintain the gate to allow in the emergency services. It's terribly important that you get the emergency people in and let them do their job, and you maintain the gate. Customer service is very important in your job. You may very well be the first person that a client's customer encounters, a guest, so to speak. We expect you to be nice, respectful, not to be rude, be kind, but yet firm, of course. If you're maintaining a gate and someone wants to come into an area that they're not allowed to come in, of course you tell them they can't come in. But we expect you to be nice and kind, and our client expects this. Clients want us to be kind, professional, but firm. Reporting to work. It's important that you report to work on time. It's also respectful of the person that you're relieving. If you're at a job site where you will relieve someone, that person is expecting to get off at their appropriate time, expecting you to be there. If you're late, that's unacceptable. Being late will get you terminated at this job. Our clients expect you to be on time. For example, you may be at a site where there is no relief or you're relieving no one, but our client expects you to be there on time. We're billing the client a specific amount of hours, and we expect you, and so does the client, expects you to be on time. If you do not show up for work, it's considered no show, no call, and we add one more statement to that, no job. So no show, no call, no job. It's also important that when you're reporting to work that you haven't consumed alcohol during a period of time before you arrive. We don't want you smelling like alcohol or being under the influence of alcohol and or drugs. Also, we don't want you, of course, using alcohol and drugs on the job, but it's very important that you report to work in a good condition and ready to work. This leads us to the workers' comp area. When you came to work with us, you signed for our workers' comp policy, including our doctor's panel. It's important to us that you follow our workers' comp policy and our doctor's panel. You sign for the doctor's panel. The doctor's panel is in English and in Spanish for better understanding. And it also tells you in the doctor's panel which hospital to contact and our doctors, the doctors that we are authorized to use for workers' comp. So let's have a hypothetical situation that you're injured on the job. The first thing you do is notify your supervisor. You follow your chain of command. If it's an emergency or you're incoherent, of course you will be transported immediately to the first emergency room, and then our workers' comp policy will take effect. If this is not an emergency, you notify your supervisor. Your supervisor will contact the EKG office. We will send you to the appropriate doctor for treatment. It's also important that you know that when you report an injury, we are required to get a drug screen. So if we send you to a doctor's office, one of the first things they're going to do is ask you to give a specimen for drugs and alcohol. If it turns out that you are under the influence of drugs and alcohol, the state of Georgia mandates that you are responsible for your own workers' comp payment. This also works this way in Georgia, Florida, and Indiana. So it's important that you not have drugs and alcohol in your system. If you get injured and you have them in your system, our workers' comp will not pay. You'll be responsible. You'll be on your own, basically. And again, you're signing for this policy and you're agreeing to follow this policy. Let's say you're injured, we've had you treated, and you're now ready to return to work, but it's light duty that you're ready to return to. And that is a duty that is less strenuous, but a duty that is, but you're also able to come back to work. We would put you in a position that may require sitting, filing, and that kind of thing. But we do have a light duty program. Drug and alcohol screening is very important. When you came to work with us, you signed our policy, signed for our policy stating that you'll follow our drug and alcohol policy. We do require random drug screens, and we also do pre-employment drug screens. If you failed to submit a sample for a random drug screen or a pre-employment drug screen, you'll be terminated. You're required to submit to the drug and alcohol screening. If you fail a test, you will be, we will follow the EKG drug and alcohol screening policy. You'll be suspended immediately. You'll have 5 days to notify us of your intent of whether you want to continue through the policy and maintain working. If you decide to stay with us, you will be required to go to a government-based treatment program at your own expense. After completion of that program, you have to submit proof of that completion to the EKG office. Then you'll be required to resubmit to a drug and alcohol screen again. All of that will be at your own expense. If you pass that resubmission and your successful completion of the drug and alcohol screening program, then you'll be reinstated in your job. If you fail the subsequent test for drugs and alcohol, of course you will be terminated immediately, or if you refuse to resubmit to a drug and alcohol test, you'll be terminated immediately. Being alert on the job is very important. We don't want you watching TV, watching movies, playing video games, being distracted by anything on the job. You are there, as we stated earlier, as eyes and ears only. We want you to observe what's going on around you. And you can't observe what's going on around you if you're busy watching a movie, or busy playing video games, or busy texting, or playing on the internet. So it's very important that you are alert. Sleeping on the job is absolutely prohibited. And if you get caught sleeping on the job, you will be terminated immediately. Sleeping will get you fired. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. The use of a cell phone also, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is very important that you're not distracted by the use of your own cell phone. Texting, emailing, etc. from your phone, or just staying on your phone too long. Of course, we know that there will be emergency phone calls, or someone may want to call you for a second. You just tell them you're at work and you'll call them back on your break time. We have some state requirements that are mandated. The state of Georgia requires that you submit to a fingerprint test. This is to ensure your identity. So upon your hiring, you were notified of the need to go get your fingerprints done. This is a mandate and must be completed. Also, the state of Georgia requires training. We have a series of DVDs and tests that must be completed. We have approximately 2 months to get this done. Fingerprints must be done immediately, and the drug screen must be done immediately. Now, we at EKG have chosen a different path that most security companies have not chosen. Most security companies will charge you for the uniforms somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $200. We don't charge you for the uniforms. However, we do require that you pay for your drug screen and your fingerprints at initial hiring, and that is $68.65. So it's really a savings, since we don't make you pay for your uniforms. Now we're going to review real briefly our policy manual, our general orders, and it can be found in your policy manual, and I'm going to buzz right through them. First responsibility is protection of life and property. We want you to be neat in appearance, in a military bearing, and very courteous. Like I said earlier, you may be the first person that our visitor comes in contact with. You're to follow all written and verbal orders. You're to pass on to your relief any pertinent information or anything that happened unusual during your shift. You will not leave your post without proper relief, and you will not perform personal work while on duty. I'm going to hammer this next point in again. We are not armed. You're not allowed to carry any firearm or any weapon. You are to report and put on your daily report any unusual occurrences, and make sure that is in your written report before you leave at the end of your shift. Any unusual occurrences. Sleeping, drinking, alcohol, intoxicating beverages, sale or use of illegal drugs, horseplay, fighting, anything like that while on the job will get you terminated. And actually, any of that while you're wearing our uniform. We don't want you to stop by a local bar on the way home wearing our uniform. Nothing like that can be done in our uniform. We expect you to observe and report any safety hazards at the job site. Refrain from any unnecessary conversation with the client's employees. Familiarize yourself with the emergency operations of the site you're working at. Fire, police, ambulance services, fire alarms, sprinklers, fire extinguishers. Know where all this is in case something happens. Also know how to notify the police and or fire departments. That's important because there may be a time when someone calls and says, call 911 or call the police or call the fire department. You need to know how to do that and do it quickly. Refrain from eating and smoking on the job. Of course you're going to have to eat, and I know that some people dip and smoke and chew. Just do it out of sight so you're not seen. The use of foul language and abuseful language is not tolerated. Again, you're there for customer service. You're to be nice and kind and polite. Refrain from unnecessary conversations concerning EKG, and do not give any kind of press releases or statements to the media. There'll be times when incidents occur at job sites and the media will want some kind of statement. You are not authorized to give any kind of statement. Your tour of duty is only terminated when you're properly relieved. If you're unable to report to duty, you should notify your supervisor at least 4 hours before your scheduled shift. Calling in 10 minutes before you're to arrive is not acceptable. 4 hours is the general accepted rule that you should call in and say, I'm not going to make it. You will not entertain any personal guest while on the job. Of course, you may have someone bring you food or clothing like a jacket or something you may forgot at home. That's fine for someone to bring that to you, but they can't stay on the job site. You're to make all rounds as prescribed by the job site and log these rounds, commonly known as security checks. Make sure you don't take any of the keys or anything you've been entrusted with home with you at the end of your shift. Don't damage any EKG property or the client's property. You'll be responsible for paying for it. You report any change of address and phone number to the EKG security office. Use of the client's telephone, cellular phone, computers, or any kind of technology is prohibited, and if you do, you understand that you'll be charged for any usage that or expense you cost the client. That'll come out of your check. As we talked about earlier, no radios, telephones, televisions, anything to distract you. No pets are allowed on the job with you, especially a guard dog. We do not have guard dogs, and you don't bring your dog from home just to keep you company. We don't have liability insurance for that. If you witness a crime in progress, notify emergency services and note as many details as possible. We don't direct any traffic in any county or state road. Don't borrow any money from any clients' employees or EKG employees. And again, the use of clients' computers and technology is strictly prohibited. A couple of last things. If you decide to quit your employment with EKG, you're required to give a 2-week notice. If you don't give a 2-week notice, or if you give a 2-week notice and fail to work out that notice, any money that's owed to you from EKG will be paid at a rate of minimum wage. So please turn in a 2-week notice, and you're signing for this in the policy manual when you came to work. Now, in conclusion, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself, Edie, your site supervisor or area manager. Again, welcome aboard, and we're glad to have you. Thank you.